My Hero Academia, 10 Harsh Realities of Losing Your Quirk. MHA's society is in many ways utterly dystopian, and losing your quirk is the fastest way to confront that harsh reality head-on. Kohei Horikoshi's My Hero Academia depicts a colorful and exciting world packed with heroes and villains who often have complex motivations. While interesting, MHA's society is in many ways utterly dystopian. The levels of systemic discrimination displayed, particularly toward the quirkless, but also toward those with less desirable quirks, may make some fans occasionally root for the villains instead of the heroes. Kai Chisaki, also known as Overhaul, suggests an interesting concept, that the root cause of society's problems is having a quirk. His premise is fundamentally flawed, as a society will always find an outsider to hate if quirks weren't a factor. But Overhaul isn't the only one to target quirks. Throughout the series, more than one character loses their innate ability as a result of an attack. With All Might himself affected. One cannot help but think about the new realities quirk loss introduces into the life of a person. 10. Quirk loss can come from serious injuries. Quirk loss can come about in various ways, but one of the most notable ways involves extreme injuries. Overhaul himself loses his quirk. He technically still has it, but the League of Villains destroys his hands, which eliminates his actual ability to use it. Another less extreme example is Shota Aizawa. He doesn't actually lose his quirk, but it is affected by the attack at the USJ. Similarly, the pro-hero Hawks loses his wings to Dobby during the Paranormal Liberation War arc. It's unclear if they will grow back. But the event itself is incredibly painful and traumatic for the hero. 9. Meeting All for One is in itself a nightmare. A common way of losing one's quirk is having it stolen by All for One. The main villain of the series, All for One, possesses the unique ability to take other people's quirks, gathering them in his own arsenal of superpowers. The pro-hero Ragdoll loses her quirk to All for One after she is kidnapped by the Vanguard Action Squad from UA's training camp. Another known victim is the vigilante Knuckleduster. 8. Some people may lose limbs or suffer extreme changes. For the most part, MHA doesn't dwell a lot on people who have lost their quirks to All for One. However, in a flashback, All for One is noted as taking a mutation quirk from someone who didn't want it and offering it to someone else. This particular event takes place many years before, at a time when quirks users were often met with opprobrium and suspicion. Things have since changed, and while mutation users still have trouble, there is one thing that is clear: their mutation is a part of them. Some quirk users may still be relieved at losing their ability, but in other cases, they can lose limbs or suffer extreme changes. In this situation, they would doubtlessly struggle to adjust to their new reality. The situation is not unlike that of users of One for All, who gain a quirk unsuited to their body instead of losing theirs. In certain situations, it can even turn out as lethal as One for All is. 7. They are always surrounded by the reminder of what they lost. The world of MHA is one that glorifies quirks. Many people, particularly those with quirks interesting enough to target or steal, likely only know its good side. After losing their quirks, they will have to face harsh truths. They will be confronted with the things they used to take for granted but are now utterly beyond their reach. It will be a constant reminder of what they lost. And it wouldn't help them at all. 6. Without a quirk, people may lose their jobs. As a rule, civilians do not rely on their quirks in their day-to-day lives. Using them without a license is against the law, and only heroes can do so. That is exactly why quirk loss will most likely lead to a hero losing their career. Ragdoll is now unable to continue her previous work after losing Search. She has stayed with the wild pussycats and keeps supporting her old teammates. But her own life as a hero is over. Even outside hero work, it's entirely possible for newly quirkless individuals to be affected as well, if they don't actually use their quirks in the workplace. The prejudice toward the quirkless may spread toward them. If it doesn't lead to actual job loss, it would certainly cause them to miss promotions or receive sanctions more often. 5. They may suffer backlash from family and friends. A third way of losing one's quirk is through overhauls quirk erasing bullets. Mirio Togata is one of the victims. Throughout the time he is quirkless, he receives a lot of support from his friends and teachers. He also finds an anchor in Eri, and the two help each other very much. Eri has needed Mirio's unfaltering support to help her get over her trauma at Overhaul's hands. And that may have reminded Mirio that he is still a hero, despite the loss of his quirk. Other people may not be so lucky. In the long run, someone who experiences the permanent loss of a quirk could find their relationship suffering. Friends might become uncomfortable or unwilling to associate with them. Depending on circumstances, even family members may end up rejecting them. This is a situation that people with villainous quirks like Himiko Toga or Hitoshi Shinso often encounter. Depending on each individual case, newly quirkless people can suffer the same fate. 4. Someone who loses their quirk may experience feelings of uselessness. Losing one's quirk takes a big toll, not just on one's body, but also on the psyche. Many people may experience feelings of uselessness and powerlessness. This will be very pronounced in people that once had very powerful quirks. All Might is the best example. Having to watch his students fight while he can't do anything is very difficult for him. He feels like a failure for being unable to protect them, and he may never be able to adjust to the feeling. 3. Quirk loss can lead to severe body dysphoria and other mental health issues. With all these problems involved, it stands to reason that people who lose their quirks may begin to suffer from mental health issues. Feelings of helplessness could only be the beginning. Quirk loss victims may spiral into body dysphoria and outright depression. This can be very dangerous, and even deadly, particularly if they do not have an appropriate support network. All Might has found an unexpected confidant in Aizawa, but the future holds many more challenges for him. 2. Losing a quirk can help people understand the harsh reality of being quirkless. While it seems unlikely that quirk loss would place people in the exact same situation as someone who was born quirkless, they would doubtlessly encounter similar challenges. They would finally understand what it's like to be quirkless. It wouldn't be a pleasant experience. It is not unlike what Izuku Midoriya has had to face for the better part of his life, before becoming All Might's successor and receiving One for All. 1. Someone who loses their quirk has to redefine their whole life. It's important to note that losing one's quirk doesn't have to be the end of the world. It's entirely possible to start over and keep going without one. But it's not easy. To do so, one would have to redefine everything they've known to be true. Mirio is the best example of this situation. He struggled with his permeation his whole life, to the point of needing special clothes created just for him. Finally mastering his quirk with the help of Sir Night Eye, he ends up losing it after defending Eri, but he doesn't give up and keeps going. Mirio still has his purpose, to become a hero. He just needs to adjust everything else.